Welcome to worship with the Universalist Unitarian Church of Peoria. I'm the Reverend Jennifer Innis, and it is my great privilege to offer worship for the ingathering and beginning of the new church year. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to welcome and care for one another. Our care includes recognizing those who have gone before. The grounds upon which we are based were the home of the Peoria people. We acknowledge their presence and their history as we gather in service. We, as members, friends, minister, and staff, get to declare and create this religious community. The building may be closed, but the church is always open. Whether we gather in person or here online, it is always good to be with each other in all the ways that we can. If you are new to the congregation, I invite you to help us get to know you. At the end of the service will be a link for our coffee hour on Zoom. All are invited to the conversation. And for the special announcement today, I call your attention to the renewal of our covenant circles. These small groups meet a couple of times a month at a range of days and times. They are led by dedicated members of the congregation. And every September is a chance to renew these circles. This is a great time to join a group and get connected with members of the congregation. For today and the rest of September, we have messages from participants in our covenant circles. And our first for this Sunday is from Steve Patterson.
Joy, wonder, discovery, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, the 7 principles of UUism, jokes, games, friends, listen deeply and speak from the heart, privacy, Black Lives Matter, or we support public safety, connections. If any of these phrases pique your interest, you might be a candidate for a covenant circle. If you want to discuss these and other issues, this may be the place for you. Contact Joyce Rosenberger at jmrosenberger46@gmail.com or 256-9969 if you're interested in joining any of these groups or if you have questions. The information on contacting Joyce is in the directory. If you are currently a member of a group and want to stay in that group, please let your facilitator know.
You're welcome to contact Joyce Rosenberger, and you also are welcome to contact the office. We hope you will be part of our covenant circles. And now, let us enter into worship with our opening hymn, Morning Has Come.
Show Good morning. Our opening words are by Reverend Scott Taylor. A new day awaits. We who long for return, who long for repair, gather again to mend the tender strands of connection between each other, the world, and those parts of ourselves buried deep. We begin once more the work of welcome, of forgiveness, of renewing this weary, worn world. Come, friends, a new day, a new story awaits.
The flame of our chalice this morning is a symbol of the warmth and brightness of our connections. The flame lights our way back together again from separate summer lives. It lights our way forward into this new church year of promise and renewal.
Strength of water takes on many forms, just as each of us has a unique and necessary strength that we bring to our community and the work of love. Take a moment now to drop down into the deep wellspring of your own spirit and bathe yourself in the strength that is the groundwater of your person. Are you a roaring fall wearing rock away with sheer force of will? Are you a small sliver of water in a crevice, breaking it open slowly and steadily? Are you buoyant, like a great salt lake, practiced at holding yourself or others aloft? Are you tenacious like the mountain stream, finding your way down and around and through every obstacle you face? Are you still and calm like the pond at daybreak, radiant peace found by your shores? Are you in touch with hidden depths, pulling from a vast well deep within? Do you soothe like the steam rising from a cup of tea? Do you dissolve away stubborn muck like dishwater? Do you soften and smooth the edges like a creeping fog? Do you clear away distraction like a cleansing rain? Do you roll with the ebb and flow, with the rhythm of the ocean waves? Settle your mind upon the strength, the power that is yours. Draw that strength into your heart, draw it up into your soul, and there find peace. As we endure difficult times together, we need each of our power, each of our resilience, each of our love to make us whole.
This morning, as we gather in love and connection in this community of all ages, let us also remember The Cycle That Connects Us by Molly Hausch Gordon and Jamila Batchelder. Rain falls upon the surface of the earth, and pulled by gravity, each drop begins to flow downhill. Drop merges with drop, flowing together into a trickle, a streamlet, a creek, a mighty river flowing onward. Some of the water seeps down into the earth itself as groundwater or deep aquifers, where it will stay for days, years, or even millennia until it's pulled up again by tree roots, wells, springs, and geysers, rejoining the dance, the flowing, flowing, flowing. The water flows on until it collects in ponds, lakes, seas, and vast oceans. And all the while the sun's rays warm the water, calling it back into vapor, so light that it can rise up, 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 each molecule moving on its own again, rising into the higher atmosphere, buoyant and swirling, up to where the air grows cool, and the water vapor slows and cools, and begins to turn again back to droplets. Droplets find droplets, and join together again and again, forming clouds, growing heavier and heavier, until at last the weight of them pulls them down again, and rain falls on the surface of the earth again. Everywhere on earth, at every moment, in somewhere, this cycle cycles upon cycles, falling, flowing, sinking, transforming, rising again and again and again. Our planet has all the water it will ever have and has ever had. This water cycle has been spiraling around and around for more than 4.5 billion years. This means that the water we gather in our annual ritual comes from all over the world and also from across all time on earth. The water we gather today has traveled through the root systems of trees long since returned to soil, burst from geysers that ceased spraying millennia ago, and flowed down rivers that have changed course entirely over billions of years. This morning, we also remember that the water cycle doesn't only involve rivers and plants and clouds, but also involves creatures. The water cycles through us too, coming in and out of our bodies in many different ways. That means that the molecules in the water you gathered from your garden hose could have been in the tears of joy and sorrow cried by the very first person who ever felt love. Or that the water from our church sink contains within it molecules that were once the best chicken soup someone ever ate. Or in the sweat of the people who built our church and our town, or in the blood of the mothers that birthed our grandmothers, 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 or even in dinosaur pee. As we gather the waters of community this morning, let us remember that they connect us to everything that has ever been and everything that will ever be. That is the power of the water we share. So may it be.
I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. As tranquil and sometimes not so tranquil streams that meet and merge, we enter a time of reflection. Amid the tumult of our lives, let us find in this moment a place of rest. May we give ourselves the gift of presence and allow this time, this people, and this place to be a true home of the Spirit. I want to thank Shar Ricky for collecting our joys and sorrows this week. And first, we offer our healing thoughts to John Miner, who was hospitalized at OSF St. Francis. And secondly, we offer our congratulations to Cinda Thompson and Keith Berry as they prepare to celebrate their 25th wedding anniversary on September 16th. And now, let us take one more moment for the joys and sorrows that are around us, among us. There are far more than we can possibly share in any one moment of gathering, but let us give them presence and space in this time. Let us take a final moment of reflection for all the names, the milestones, all the sorrows, all the joys, all that is in the world, and let that be present before us. Amen. I invite you to enter into a time of reflection, prayer, and meditation. And I want to thank my colleague, the Reverend Marta Valentin, for the prayer today. By the grace of the divine power, which is larger-hearted than we can ever imagine, we are constantly given the opportunity to begin again. As the signposts along the continuous journey suggest twists and turns we had not brought into view. For the focus was on the mountains just up ahead, beyond the ridge. By the faith in the divine power that lives through the trust of our human ability, we are constantly offered the challenge to test the waters, not just smooth the inevitable ripples to a satinly gloss finish as if that were the goal in life, losing all character by not realizing the swells are what make life interesting, intriguing, indescribable. By the love of the divine power whose very core is compassion for our earthly missteps on this journey, we are constantly given an opening to remember that we each have a place in the kingdom of community and the knowledge and the courage to begin again toward a faith-filled, loving grace that is our birthright. Let us spend one more moment, one of more of our precious moments in silence. Amen. Our stories and meditations today invite us to become more aware of the connections and cycles of which we are a part, particularly in the conversations and the imagery of water. In Hebrew, running water is called living. Life gathers and life comes forth along natural paths and pools. The grooves made by water flowing on land and underground collect to form deep wells and water holes. In the Hebrew scriptures, Jacob met Rachel at the watering hole. Their meeting was a bonding, a foretelling of the future and a legacy of the Hebrew people. In the Christian scriptures, Jesus meets a Samaritan woman at the well, and in that conversation, Jesus offers the idea of the water of life, the image of what it means to believe in his teachings and the God he served and its message of compassion and justice. Her meeting with him gave her new insight into the nature of salvation and the holy. And Jesus himself is engaged with this woman as they navigate theology and culture and gender. Even if you arrive at a well and find yourself alone, over time the stone has been grooved by peoples filling their buckets. Perhaps someone just left spilled water and caused the ground to be damp. There are signs of the presence of those who pass before us, and there is the promise that someone will come along shortly. When we enter any place of meeting, a classroom, an office, a library, a park, people have lived there, following the paths of gathering. What this space is like, I'm sure when people would leave on Sunday, there is something that is still and fresh. And right before everyone arrives, it is waiting and expecting and potent. But this year, as we celebrate the renewal of the paths that bind us together, we are in a moment of renewal with elements, in essence, unlike any that have gone before. The very forms of our paths are new and a little strange, and in our in-person world of kind of surround sound and sensory depth, so much of our lives are now in squares and electronic voices over phone lines and across screens. For me, I don't know about you, but for me there is a flatness, a singular dimension, and you have to kind of figure out how to make meaning in that form. And I'll say these foreign avenues at the same time also mean that many of us have access to these paths in ways we did not realize we needed. So perhaps not so much the physical grooves of which we might be used to, but there are still all of these avenues and ways in which we come together again and again and again, and we're finding new ways to do this. As one of my colleagues said, can be surprising intimacy in a Zoom conversation. For now, we are here and present in this moment of worship to enliven and freshen the presence of the presences in our lives. In this moment, that is what we are about today, to committing to this congregation and the mission of the community. So today, we ponder for a moment, in this renewal, in this ingathering, what are our promises to one another? What are our commitments? What do we search for in the process of making those promises and those commitments? Now, I know one of the most important pieces we seek in any gathering is friendship, is connection, is people we know, the people that we may meet, the people that we may discover in the next meeting, wondering what may happen and who may we encounter in the future. The particular function of a religious community today is, at its essence, to be a place of meeting and relationship across generations, across all the chapters of our lives, that we may have another place in which to share our experience our questions, our discoveries, even our mundaneness with each other, that we might not be so alone in this world, that we might take joy and amplify the joy that we find together. Now, the beloved community also is renewed not just for its own sake, but for a larger purpose. For us, knowing that our gathering in has happened again and again for so many years as this body, for so many decades, close to a couple of centuries. This alone reinforces that human desire to find comfort and support in our spiritual lives. And it also, this gathering in over time and ages, makes it easier for us to remember who has gone before in those paths of seeking freedom and reason and justice and tolerance and love. So in this moment of remembering and reconnection, I want to offer a story about where the water communion, what we're gathering in for this vehicle today. Now, the water communion itself, in its origin, is a story of finding strength in unfamiliar places. 40 years ago, in fact, 1980, the Unitarian Universalist women came together at the Women in Religion Conference in Michigan. They wanted to have a voice when women were so long kept from being accepted as leaders in our own churches. And I'll say again, they had been kept from being leaders in our own congregations in Unitarian Universalism. They sought to create a ritual where all could contribute. And the participants in that creation, they brought water from every corner of the country as a symbol of life within each of us, no matter our gender, our age, our color, our orientation, our ability. They came all with their little contributions of water together. And when they left, the women left that conference and brought back that ritual of a water ceremony. And they brought it back to their congregations at home with little vials of the water that had been brought together. And so not only did they come back with those little vials of water, they came back with a deeper charge to all Unitarian Universalists to include women and female perspectives in our understanding of Scripture and in our understanding of who can lead the church. Efforts such as theirs led to changes such that now far more than half of our Unitarian Universalist ministry are women. Now, this was 40 years ago, and there's been great progress made, but I'm going to tell you now, 40 years later, we're still talking about women's bodies and women's lives. We're still talking about health care and the right to control and the right to access and self-determination of our bodies. Perhaps now, in these last few years of times up of advocacy and recognizing bias and harassment, perhaps now we are getting into the deeper truths of how to learn to regard ourselves and others as fully human beings. Perhaps now. And I'll say in these last few years, even more recently, not only are we talking about women's bodies and women's lives, we are also getting better at talking about the lives and bodies of women who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, as well as trans and queer and disabled. We're talking not just about people and ideas, but about names too, such as Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor. We are talking about men's bodies as well, including George Floyd and Jacob Blake, and trans men such as Tony McDade. Perhaps now, with this new year, we can enter a new commitment to the promises that we have been making for a very long time and are now unpacking even further to say what we are called to do and be and advocate for to the best of our ability. in these paths of encounter, all of our meetings, no matter how small or how much a part of a larger mission we are a part, we find the greater meaning of community that feeds the mind and the body and the spirit. It's practice all along the way in acts great and small. A religious community like ours stirs in us what we receive from other places. We receive so much from our congregations, from any source of spiritual reflection, from world religions, so that we may be a creating, learning, loving body. Here, we get to create the comfort of home, but also here is a place of transformation. We have all of these intersecting layers upon us and among us. When we follow our paths and our gatherings, we also find that our friends and dreams are here to meet us. In this ritual of ingathering, we celebrate because sometimes, many times, we are uncomfortable, unsatisfied, truly wronged, truly sad and harmed. We need to reintroduce, to recall why we gather, no matter how far we've been apart. And it is good to be in a place such as this where we're not just trying to find our sources of comfort and renewal, but to be disrupted so that we may be disruptive and further move out into the world, to discover what is new, as well as what doesn't change about our friends and our dreams and about ourselves. We return to a place such as this, not just to find the natural paths that we might encounter, but to affirm our call to help heal the world, beginning with each other. We affirm our acceptance and our love. Sometimes, oftentimes, we don't agree. Sometimes we're awkward, and sometimes we don't even like each other. But we get to gather again. As I'll say that even in this moment of working all the paths out, and sometimes the rocks are rough, sometimes the rocks are smooth as we flow together. I'll tell you that part of what makes this work is that we're always open to what new elements may come as well and further deepen our gathering. There are new elements of ministry already in motion. You and I are discovering this new path together, how we may journey along the river. A new shape is being built here and now. So as we have gathered, and in our shaping, may we remember to greet and welcome each other, to visit with one another, our elders, our youngest, and everyone in between, to extend our welcome and our connection to our friends and neighbors who may not be able to be with us, to maintain the good work of worship, our adult programs, our children's education, and keep reaching out in our work for justice in the larger Peoria community. In our ingathering, let us remember what we may encounter and wonder together what we may go forward and do. In this place of gathering, let us welcome each other. Now, I want to recognize that ingathering, again, is different this year. And for our special moment, many of you sent in photos and short videos of yourselves, your families, and your adventures. And this sharing a bit of yourselves, of ourselves, it is a moment, a gesture. It is a little bit of revelation with one another. We get to kind of experience the context of each other's lives. We can talk about this a lot, but the pictures, they show something too. And that is a precious opportunity. We get to see a little bit, truly a window. and renew our connections of our vision and our hope and our promises to one another. And I will offer that if you're not familiar with how we might frame this as a water communion, that this is indeed a form of communion, a kind of interchange. Our Cambridge platform from 1648, which is the foundation of our congregational life, those writers spoke of real agreement and consent to being a part of a beloved community. And this covenant, these promises that we make to each other and have been making for a long time, it's demonstrated by the constant gathering for worship and by holding ourselves to the higher causes that move us into lives of compassion and service. Here, now, is an outward sign of the great circle of love and care that is created and held by all of us as members and friends and children and youth. So as we get to see a little bit of each other's lives, let us savor this moment together. For the final element of our Ingathering Water Communion, I call your attention to the wonderful collection of videos and photos. These include members and friends of all ages. Thank you to everyone who contributed to this collection, and thank you to Austin Locke, who worked his technological magic to allow us to share them with you. These images represent the collective act of showing up, of gathering in, and of renewing this beloved community for the year to come.
With my mom, Jeanette Gruber, and my dad, Edward Flint. And this is water from our home where we've been together since spring break. And the water also symbolizes the water that the cardboard kayak my dad and I made would have floated on had it not rained today. And it's in a bottle that I made with my mom.
Water from our rain barrel that we're going to pour in this bowl together.
To a new church year.
What? Why?
Can you say looking forward to a new church year?
Looking forward to church year.
Okay, say it nice and slow.
Church year.
Looking forward
to a new church year.
And a new church year. And Mom's going, Mom's gonna go.
I invite you to feel the presence of all those faces, and all those videos and photos. Each image is worth far more than 1,000 words. Mindful of the great circle of friends and members, children and youth among us, I invite you also to feel the presence and the people and the many stories and connections that create and sustain this congregation. And now, I pour one more measure of water. One for all of us, one for the congregation, and one for the world. I close this communion with a blessing adapted from my colleague, Francis Manley. Blessed be the waters gathered here from far and near. Blessed be the hands who gathered the waters and poured them out. Blessed be the sharing of lives and stories that make this community of faith a fount of living water for all who choose to come here. Blessed be those whose lives are touched by these waters, that their thirst may be quenched. Blessed are those whose lives are like flowing springs, who bring refreshment to those who are parched. Blessed be this community of memory, of hope, which in its coming together, in its sharing of joy and sorrow, triumph and struggle, blesses all who come here and make these waters holy. And finally, blessed be the source of water, the source of life itself. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing hymn is We Shall Be Known by Ma Muse.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And from the Black African author Howard Thurman, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Our worship is ended. Let our service begin. I need to share a correction about the website information listed for worship this morning. The website information said that there would be a water collection after the service today from 1 to 3 p.m. And I'll note that that is incorrect. The water collection was last Sunday afternoon. There will not be a collective water receiving this afternoon at church. I apologize for any confusion. Thank you.